Hi guys. So today we are going to discuss the correction of practice one in details. So people say that practice makes perfect, but I believe that correction of practices step by step, like a detailed correction, will make you understand things more perfectly. Okay, so what we are going to do is that you try to follow with me the different steps for finalizing the solution of practice one. Okay, so mainly I'm recording this in detail. So what I usually do is that I share with my students like a final solution. With you guys, I didn't want to share a final solution before everyone tries. And in order to help everyone, I was sharing a help file. I'm going to discuss this later, but I need to help everyone equally. So there was something that were not explained in that help file. So to just make sure that some students were really detecting or working hard, going through the recordings and understanding, by copying pasting the help file in the solution. I don't do things like I'm giving you the solution, so you're just going to upload that and get your full grade. So it's not the case. Okay, so now you will understand what's wrong with the help file, what's good, and you will really have your final solution well detailed, like I'm mentioning, step by step in this video. Okay, so here we go. In practice one, so what we seen mainly is kind of an exercise which says that during the planning for the implementation of a software project, the work breakdown structure, which is we have the abbreviation WBS for this, it consists of 10 activities. So in this table, we have the summary of these 10 activities. We have for each activity which are which is the predecessor, how many time, how long time it takes, like the estimation in weeks for this activity to complete. And so different activities in addition to the start and end. We have mainly 3 questions, so we will answer them in details one by one. So the first question asks to draw a network diagram to represent these tasks and their dependencies. So you have everything needed to answer this question, which is this table mainly. So this is going to be your starting point, okay? So what activities do we have? We are going to present this we need to have kind of a visually understandable representation of the same table, okay? So we have our start, okay? So we just try to present that, okay? Then from the start, so it's mainly the very first thing. So we do not have any predecessors for this. And when we start, mainly if we have some counter, so we start counting from 0, okay? Next now, the very first activities with S. We don't have only one activity because when we start, what we have, mainly we need to have 3 activities starting, and we'll see that they are starting in parallel, okay? So the first one is C. So here we present it within a circle. So for C, our predecessor is the start. This is why we have this arrow from start. We can go to activity C, we can go to activity B, and also we can go, as you can see in the table, to activity P, okay? So we mentioned the names of these activities here. Next, now we need to add a very important piece of information, which is the estimation in weeks of these activities. So from the table, we can read that for activity C, the estimation is 6 weeks. This is why I'm putting here 6, which says that activity 6, can take, it's an estimation, probably 6 weeks. The same I will do for activity B that takes 4 weeks and activity P that takes 3 weeks, okay? Until here is very clear. Now, what we have? Another activity, which is activity A. Now, for activity A, we need kind of draw the circle representing the activity A and come back to our table and see this activity A mainly. It's connected to which activities? And in other words, so which are the predecessors for activity A. So we can see that there is a link between C, B, P, so these all activities to activity A. So we have them connected to activity A, which takes, like, based on this table, so activity A, which is connected to C, B, and P, takes kind of 7 weeks. This is why we mention 7 here, okay? Next, we have activity U, okay? So for activity U, it's mainly connected, or the predecessor for this activity is activity P. This is why P is also connected via like this arrow to activity U. That takes like 4 weeks, okay, as an estimation. Next, we have in our table activity T. So activity T here is connected to activity, like coming after finishing activity A, we can move to activity T. This activity, based on the table again, takes 2 weeks to complete. This is why we mentioned 2 weeks in there, okay? After that, we have another activity, which is activity R, also has as a predecessor activity A. So this is why we mentioned this link. And it takes 3 weeks to like as an estimation to get completed. So we mentioned these 3, and we keep doing the same for activity N connected to U and taking 6 weeks. So now once T, R, and N are completed, we are coming to the end of our network diagram. So if I'm asking you in the exam to draw a network diagram representing like kind of tasks summarized within some table, this is what kind of logic that you can use, okay? You can make in the sample of answer that I'm sharing with you as help. So you can make it more complicated, you can add more details, you are free to do that. But this is the basic correction that I am expecting from everyone, okay? Next, now we move to the second question. Now, the second question says like using the forward analysis, identify and clearly like indicate on your diagram what are you going to identify and what are you going to clearly indicate the critical path and earliest completion time of the software project. So the first thing that you do when you read your question, whether if you are working on practices or you are working on the midterm exam or final exam, is to try to highlight, like I did here, some keywords that we covered during the class lectures that are kind of needed or mandatory, or it's necessary to understand these words in order to answer to the question. So if you don't know what does forward analysis mean, or if you don't understand what is a critical path, or you probably forgot what is or what means earliest completion time, probably you're going to make a mistake. So all this has been detailed in our recordings. You can find that in the slides. So we were discussing about critical path, slack time, and all this. A critical path is a sequence of activities that take the longest time to complete. Okay, so from our diagram that we already drawn, we are going to find a sequence of activities that take the longest time to complete. So this is the length of the critical paths defined, that defines how long your project will take to complete. So this critical path is going to help us to determine the earliest completion time. Okay, so this is what we will cover today. But before that, another key, like in the question, is the forward analysis. So for forward analysis, we introduced some definitions, okay? So we introduced the meaning of earliest start date, ES, which is the earliest date you can start an activity. We introduced the earliest finish date, which is the earliest date you can finish an activity. Other concepts we introduced, like the latest start date, which is the latest date you can start an activity and still finish the project on the shortest time. We also introduced the latest finish date, and this is like kind of the latest date you can finish an activity and still finish the project in the shortest time. So all this is needed. Why? To perform the forward analysis, okay? So for forward analysis, we will only focus with the first two components, which are the earliest start date and the earliest finish date, okay? So when we say like forward analysis, or forward path, is we are going to determine the critical path. And in this case, how to determine that is that we are going to compute the earliest start, and we are going to compute the earliest finish date for each activity, okay? So if we have 10 activities, we are going to do this for 10 activities. We had 5 activities in the class exercise, the example that I was talking about, and we already did this for 5 activities, okay? So this is the diagram that we were discussing. This is the visual representation. This is the project duration that we were finding at the end after performing the forward analysis, okay? You can go back to this example. It's detailed in the recordings. But today I will move on to the practice correction, okay? I will give a similar way of reasoning in a different context or different example, which is our practice 1 case, okay? So in this case, we covered already the backward path also, which I will come back later for that. But for the second question, we will use the critical path, knowledge that we learned, whatever we learned about critical path, and since we will use the forward analysis, so we are going to only use the components that are needed for forward analysis, which are 2, the earliest start date and the earliest finish date. So the earliest start date is the earliest date that you can start an activity again, and the earliest finish date is the earliest date you can finish an activity, okay? Keeping this in mind, we are going to apply in order to solve this question, okay? Let's go. So for forward path, as you already seen in this example, we need to draw one table, and this table is going to have for each activity the latest start and the latest finish, the earliest start and the earliest finish, because we're going to first start with the forward analysis. Later, when we will move on to backward, we can discuss the latest start and latest finish, okay? So focus that now, we will focus on the earliest start and the earliest finish, which are the 2 components needed for the forward analysis, as I was mentioning already, okay? Let's do it. Okay, I have this table. I have for each activity, so these are my activities, this is my diagram. So I must, whenever I'm trying to answer to the question, I came back to my slides, I'm checking whatever resources, because if you are having this kind of practice, you are going to come back to your slides, probably you're going to Google things, you are going to collect that knowledge that will help you to solve the exercise. But don't forget that another piece of information is what you already have in the exercise. Some we already have within the announcement of the problem, like this table, and some we had from previous questions that we already used. So always you keep in mind these 3 components. Whatever you have in the exercise, previous questions that you already answered, because you will use information from there. And also the needed, I would say, knowledge or background that will help you answer your question. Okay, let's do it. Now, for each of these activities, which are taken already from here, we are going to compute or calculate or mention the earliest start and the earliest finish, okay? So here I'm just adding like a column for this table to note few tricks to help you understand better. I didn't do that for the homework, during the recording of the slides. I mentioned things orally, but here I'm putting notes so you maybe understand more. Now, the first activity that we have, whether in the table or in this diagram, is activity C, okay? So what we will do first for our activities, we will mention them all in the forward pass. So forward passes, we will start in order from the start, that activities that come first, and we know that there is kind of sequence of activities in addition to that parallel activities. So for the forward pass, we can maintain the same order of the activity as in the first exercise that is translated already in our graph. So we have C first, then B, then P, then A, then U, then T, then R, then N, then the end, okay? So it's not important to mention the start because just 0 weeks, so I don't see any like importance in mentioning that, okay? So the end I'm mentioning because this is going to, at the end, help me find the final time to complete. Till the end means. Okay, let's start. A project is starting, okay? We are at week 1. Just starting means we are at the start of week 1. So we are at the start of week 1, we have activity C. Activity C takes how long? It takes 6 weeks. So it's going to start at the start of week 1, it's going to finish. This is the earliest finish time because it takes like 6 weeks. So the earliest time is end of week 6 that this activity is going to take. So it finished. Next, I have at the same week, first, when we started the project, which is the start of week 1, activity B starting. This activity takes how long? Takes 4 weeks. So the earliest finish time for this activity is the end of week 4. Next, we have activity P. It also started at start of week 1, and this activity P will take 3 weeks. So the earliest finish for this activity is the end of week 3. Now everything is clear and simple. Moving to the next activity, which is A. Here we need to note some points that A must be waiting for activity C, activity B, and activity P that are coming before. They are the predecessors for this activity to finish, okay? For these activities, now to finish, we have C, earliest finish is 6. B, earliest finish is 4. It will finish before. And P, earliest finish, it will finish even before, is 3, okay? So for this activity to start, we need to consider the maximum among these 3. So maximum activity takes 6 weeks, which is activity C, and it ends at the end of week 6. So what comes next after the end of week 6? It's the start of week 7. So just as soon as we're finishing, we're going to start activity A. So this is why we have for activity A as an earliest start. If everything is perfect, this is completing exactly at the end of week 6. We will move on and finish activity A. That is going to start at the start of week 7. Now, what we have as information about activity A, we know that this will take 7 weeks. So 7 weeks starting from the start of week 7. So we find that the earliest finish for activity A is the end of week 13, okay? And now, after that, what we have? We have activity U. Now, for activity U, we need to know that it comes straight after activity P. And from our table, activity P, it has as earliest finish is the end of week 3. What comes after the end of week 3? We have the start of week 4. Good. So the earliest start for activity U is the start of week 4. Start of week 4. How long it takes? Like we have the estimation in weeks, 4 weeks. So 4 weeks from the start of activity 4 is the end of week 7. This is the earliest finish for you. With the same way of thinking, we can do the same for activity T. Activity T comes after activity A. So, okay, this is why we will keep looking at activity A. When it's going to finish? End of week 13. Next comes the start of week 14. So, it starts, earliest start, sorry, is this for activity T, is the start of week 14. After that, it takes how long this activity T? Just 2 weeks. So it will be from the start of week 14, we add 2 weeks until the end of week 15. Next, activity R, with the same thinking. We try to look for which coming before activity R. We have activity A. Activity A, when it finished. So it finished at the end of week 13. Same like T, we are going to start at the start of week 14. And because both of them are coming after A, okay? And how long now? This will take 3 weeks. So it's going to end to finish, sorry, or the earliest finish for activity R is the end of week 16. Good. Last one before the end is the activity N. Activity N is coming when, oh, sorry, what's going on? Yep. Activity N. Okay, activity N here is coming after activity U. So we check in our table the row for activity U. We have that the earliest finish is the end of week 7. So next we have the start of week 8. Activity N starts at the start, earliest start is the start of week 8. It takes 6 weeks, and then it's going to have as earliest finish is end of week 13. Okay? Now, end of week 13, we are moving to the end of our software project time. So once T, R, and N are done, means we are done. Okay? So T, R, and N, they have these earliest finish dates. One will finish at the end of week 15, one will finish at the end of week 16, and one will finish at the end of week 13. So the maximum one is R. So our project, mainly we wait for the longest activity, okay? So we wait until activity, even that N is done in 13 weeks. 1 week later, T is done. 1 week later, R is done. Once all of them are done, then our project is done. So the end or the earliest finish for this project is the end of week 16. So now we are processing or we are having this performing this forward analysis, and you are able to have this table of the forward path containing the earliest start and finish times. From this, now we can see that for the project, now what we have from the end, the critical path that takes 16 weeks, it ends in R, so we have R. Before R, now it's coming after A, so this is we went through A, and for A, so it's waiting for these 3. The longest one is C, so we came from C, and this is mainly the critical path, okay? So, and the earliest completion time of the software project is 16 weeks, okay? So it's easy, but it needs some concentration. Now, what you can do to make sure that you are understanding, to pause the video, don't look at my correction, and try to apply the same reasoning, the same thinking, using one pen and paper, and to make sure that in the exam day, for example, or midterm, you are able to solve this, okay? Done. Pause the video, do it please, and come back to the next question. Okay. Now, the next question is that we are going to use the backward analysis this time. We are done with the forward analysis, moving to the backward analysis. in order to calculate the slack time values for tasks A, T, and R, okay? So the question is tricky because I'm specifying for you some of specific activities, okay? Which are A, T, and R. But when we do the backward analysis, it applies for all the activities, by the way. Next, we will apply the formula, and I mean the correct formula, to these particular tasks, okay? So let's do it. But before, we need some background. So backward analysis, what is it? So the backward pass or analysis is the same. It's done, or we do it in order to determine the slack time. This is what we are asked to do in the question. So for this, what we use the latest start date and the latest finish date. So now it's coming the use of these two dates. For the latest start date, we need to know what is that. So the latest date that you can start an activity and still finish the project in the shortest time. Now, the latest finish date is the latest date you can finish an activity and still finish the project in the shortest time, okay? So we will focus on this in order to compute the slack time. What is the slack time? It is the maximum amount of time that you can delay an activity and still finish your project in the shortest time possible, okay? Okay, so with all this background, we are ready to answer question 3. What we will do for this question 3, we are going to use the background that we have, the knowledge about the backward analysis, we're going to perform the backward analysis for all the activities. After that, we are going to focus on the specific activities A, T, and R, okay? For these activities, we are going to compute the slack time. Fine. So let's go for the backward pass. For the backward pass, what we will be computing, we'll be trying to find the latest start and the latest finish for each activity. But the difference now between the forward analysis and the backward analysis, as the name mentions, is the direction. For the forward pass, we just let me show you in the here. So for the forward pass, we go from the start to the end, okay? Now, for the backward analysis, I'll try even to explain this in the lecture slide. We go from the end to the start. We go from the back to the start, okay? So to make this more clear, I respected the order from the back to the start in this table, okay? So here we start from the end, okay? Before, in my example that we seen in the class, you will see that even that this was for the backward analysis, the order is the same, but my presentation was animated. So I started with activity 5, then moved to 4, then 3, then like that, in the order with the animation. So probably didn't concentrate with that. So now I am going to make it clear that we start not like the forward pass. We start from the very beginning, the first activity, then to reach up to the end. Now we start from the end to the start, okay? Now, from the end, what we have connected to the end? Activities T, R, and N. These T, R, and N. This is why here you will find me putting after the end T, R, and N. Next, now, what we have after T, R, and N? We have A, then U, then we have C, B, and P, okay? So you can just use the order. This order I'm mentioning is just to help you, or it will let you reason in the right way, okay? But feel free to write it's better to apply this, okay? Because we start first from this point at the end. What information we have now? In the previous question, we were computing the total time for this project to finish. We said it takes 16 weeks, okay? So this is what we will use. So you see here, so the earliest project finish is 16 weeks because activity R here, earliest finish time is the end of week 16. So with this piece of information, we're going to start. So the end of our project is end of week 16, okay? Now, we start from the end and we will go back. For activity T, the estimation time for T is 2 weeks. So the latest start, for T, R or N that are coming in parallel here, all of them are going to finish at the same project and date. This is only if we consider the information that we take from previous exercise, the total duration of the project, which is the project is going to finish end of week 16. So we are going to suppose that all these activities having the same end date, which is end of week 16, okay? So starting from this latest finish possible. So at the end, even if activity R will take more than 13 or 14 weeks maximum, it can be done within 16 weeks. Okay, so it can take up to the end of week 16. The same for N, it will take up to the end of week 16. Now, all of these T, R, and N are going to end with the same end of the project, which is end of week 16. Each of them now is having a different estimation of duration in weeks. So T, for example, takes 2 weeks. Counting back, because we are performing the backward analysis. Back from week 16, activity T that takes 2 weeks is supposed to start at the start of week 15. Activity R, if we consider the latest finish is 16, and activity R takes 3 weeks, so the latest start is week 40, start of week 14. For activity N, if we consider that it finishes at the end of week 16, and this one takes 6 weeks, so it's supposed to have as a latest start the start of week 11, okay? So now what we have? After that, we have activity U, okay? Activity U, this one, because why I'm moving to activity U here? Because now we have U, is connected to N. We're just answering about N, and we know that N has as the latest start of week 11, okay? So the activity that comes before that is supposed to finish at the end of week 10. So at the start of week 11, N starts. So that activity is activity U, okay? So if activity U now has as a latest finish end of week 10, and it has 4 weeks, so counting back, we have the latest start for activity U is the start of week 7, okay? Now, what activity we have next? We have activity A. Activity A actually is going, where is activity A? This one. So it's connected to activity, if we're moving in the backward direction. So activity R. Activity R that started at the start of week 14 means the activity just coming before R, which is A, is going to finish just before activity R is starting, which means this one starting at the start of week 14. So activity A that comes before has the latest finish is the end of week 13. So next we have start of week 14. Okay, so this activity A takes 7 weeks. 7 weeks from this, so it has at the latest start is the start of week 7. Okay, next what we have, like the activities C, B, and P. Let's go for P. So P, we know that for it comes what we have before that, A and U, okay? For A and U, both of them, they have the same latest start, okay, which is the start of week 7. So this is why P is supposed to finish just before that. So the latest finish for P is the end of week 6, and activity P takes 3 weeks. So its latest start is supposed to be start of week 4. Now, for C, it has the same way of thinking. Latest finish is end of week 6, the same like activity B. And so for the one, activity C, it's hidden with this table. So activity C, I think it takes, let's come back. Just in, okay, we can see this here. Activity C, it takes 6 weeks. Okay, so it starts at the start of week 1, and activity B takes 4 weeks, so it will start or have latest start is the start of week 3. Okay, this is how we do the backward analysis. We consider the latest finish and come from the back, like to the start, okay, in the opposite direction. Okay, so now if you are going to pause the video, try to do this by yourself. You will be able to complete the backward analysis, and you're already done with the forward analysis. Try to do the backward analysis. But remember that backward analysis is not the answer for this question, it's part of the answer, and you need to detail all this for a full grade, okay? So now the question is not about getting this table. Okay, you are going to use the backward analysis, but what you are going to calculate? You are going to calculate the slack time values for few tasks, A, T, and R, okay? So for T, R, and A, we are going to compute the slack value. So coming back to the background, what we know about the slack time values. So we know that the slack time of a given activity is the difference between the latest start and the earliest start, okay? So I will not accept kind of any formulas that we are not covering in the class. So keep this in mind. So we only respect the slides, the class recordings, lectures. So in our lectures, the rule that we have is that the slack time for an activity, slack time of activity A is equal to slack time to latest start of activity A minus earliest start of activity A. Okay, this is the lesson I want you to learn. Okay, so you are going to use this rule, not another rule. I will come back to this point. So what we will do then, we have the latest start we are getting from the forward pass. Now, we need the earliest start. From where I will get this now? I already have it. That already exists in the earliest, like in the forward pass that we already like did in the previous question number 2. Now you will put both tables in front of you, and you are going to focus because the formula of slack time says that you are going to like calculate the difference between LS, latest start, minus earliest start. Okay, so I have this table already, and I am going to do the latest start minus earliest start. Am I going to do for all the activities? No, I'm giving just 3 activities. We are going to apply that for that 3 activities. Which are the activities? Okay, now the activities are, sorry, I need to just make a pen. How to write? Okay, I'm making the pen here. So we have activities A, T, and R. So I need to make sure that I have, this is T, okay, R, oops, okay, keep that. TR and A. Where is A? It's here. So make sure why I'm putting them in circle, because I changed the order. So I need to figure in the second table or first forward pass table, where is the activity T? It's this one. Where is the activity R? It's this one. Where is the activity A? So what is A? It's A. It's this one. Okay. Now what we will do, for each of them, I am going to make or just compute the difference between, for A, I am going to make latest start, which is 7, okay, minus earliest start for A, okay, which is 7. So I will do this for A, okay, this is A. Next, I will do the same for change the colors. I make the green for T, okay, which is, we make 15 minus 40, we have here, it's 14, okay, 15 minus 14. And it's very important to use colors like this, because maybe you can like subtract different elements. So you do all the analysis in the right way, and the last thing you make a big mistake. So I don't want this to happen. So this is why I'm using the colors, okay? Just to teach you how to think. Okay, now I need just to have a pen to write. So I will compute the slack time for which activity? T. Oh, oops. It's very difficult to write with this, by the way. I keep saying this in all my recordings, right? It's really difficult. So slack time for activity T is equal to, I'm going to apply this, latest start for activity T, which is 15 minus earliest start for activity T, which is in green. So 14, okay? 15 minus 14 is equal to 1, okay? So this, the final result, you must have 1. Now, the slack time, the worst S I ever seen, okay? Slack time for activity, next one, let's say take A. For activity A, okay, is the difference now. A is in yellow, so we have 7 minus 7, which is 0. So here you have 7 minus 7. So you have a 0. Okay. Oops. Now, the slack time, it's extremely difficult for R, okay, is equal to the difference between what we have, the orange color for now, is 14 minus 14, okay, which is again 0, okay? So I wish there is no mistakes. So just let's double check things, because this pen is okay. For slack time for T, which is this one, is the latest start for T 15 minus the earliest start for T, which is 14, which is equal to 1. Good. Now the latest start now for A, 7 minus 7, it's 0. So the slack time for A is 0. And the slack time for R is also 0. Okay? So I think now we are answering to this question. So the final answer is 1, 0, 0, or whatever order you are presenting your activities in. But the grading, to get your full grade, you need to show the steps that you went through. Okay, they are more important than the result. Okay, because if, for example, someone did a mistake at this level and slack time 40, it's like I'm having these correct tables. Instead of using the 15, I by mistake used 7, for example. I will consider that you went through the right steps. Okay, so you need to show your steps. It's very important. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And now let me uh, go to some very important remark, which is about the help file that I was sharing with you. So in the help file, I was giving a wrong formula for the slack time. And unfortunately, only very few students were detecting this. This mainly was a mistake that intentionally is happening in order to teach you something, okay? Because we learn from everything in this class. We learn from the project, we learn from the practices, we learn from my help, we learn from the Discord channel, we learn from each other. We learn from this file that you must not trust any solution that is given to you other than your class slides and recordings. And whatever I'm saying, this is a solution, this is a solution. What is help? It's just to help you, not guarantee any full grading, because like that I cannot be fair with everyone. Okay, so this is saying that slack time is the difference between latest finish and earliest start. No, this is completely wrong formula that is leading to wrong results. And this example of answering is not the way like I'm showing you the detailed correction today. How come you think of answering this question without showing the details of the forward pass, the details of the backward pass, and all this like explanation that I am doing in this recording? So you need to be very careful. You need to detail your answers. You need to come back to the slides, and you need to be based on that. For the exam or midterm exam, so mainly it's open book. So probably you can talk to some friends and they give you kind of a help file. Okay, make sure that help file, it can be wrong. So do not rely on your friends, because there is no guarantee that they are not committing some mistakes somewhere. Okay, so doesn't look nice to make the same mistake. So you need to make sure about the correction, your own correction, after understanding this record, this like practice solution. Another thing that I am highlighting, it's very important, okay, to I encourage using generative AI, I said, but generative AI in these particular tasks that needs computation and so on, they will give you the solution that is different from our slides and the way I am correcting this practice. So sometimes you don't use start of week 1, you will find a solution where the start starts from 0, or it can give you different solutions. So they are not all correct. Okay, so even that you can use ChatGPT, for example, or any other like generative AI, you need to make sure that you know the steps. So if you are having something, you can just copy it and it's completely wrong. So you are losing points. I don't want this to happen. This is why it's very important that I am saying to you to be very careful from any help that you can get. You can send me an email during the midterm or the exam. Be careful, whatever I can say to you is not always the right thing. So it's better to not ask me any questions. So maybe I'm helping now to teach you something, but during the midterm and the final, I will not help. After the practice, after you're giving your try, maybe I can answer your questions, okay? But during the midterm, please don't ask me anything, because I'm explaining things in advance. So this video and the upcoming videos are to prepare you for this exam, okay? Thank you for watching and have a good luck.